Spirit flow through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding peace. Spirit show through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding love. Flow through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding peace. And Spirit show through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding.
Two, one. Good evening and welcome to our Midweek Faith Lift. My name is Shannon LeBrun and I'm joined today with Eric Miller, who is an author. And you have written what, like 3 books? Yeah, 3 books. Can you tell us a little bit about the books you've written? Or at least the first one that I think I have a copy here. It's called A Caregiver's Journey, Self-Care for Caregivers of Loved Ones with Dementia and Alzheimer's. And I got a chance to read just a little bit. And it's very touching.
Oh, good.
It's very touching. And I guess it's your experience.
Yeah. That's actually my last book, not my first book.
Mm-hmm.
That just came out in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about my experience caring for my mother, who
mm-hmm.
Suffered from dementia for a long time. And after she passed, I wrote that book.
Yeah. And it gives people a pretty much people that don't have experience. It can be useful for people who don't have experience or who are about to get into a situation in which they're going to be caring for someone who's struggling.
Yeah, that's why I wrote it,
mm-hmm.
to talk about. I had the experience of being in Sedona, Arizona,
mm-hmm.
of all places. My wife and I were living in Las Vegas still, and wonderful, Sedona, Arizona. It's everything you've ever heard about. It's really beautiful, and we were coming back from a little long weekend business trip there, and we were staying in Flagstaff, and my phone rang, and I got this shooting pain down my arm, and my blood pressure had been spiking every time my phone rang for about 3 years because my mother was progressively getting worse and worse and worse, and but she was in a full-time care facility, but
mm-hmm.
still I was having that stress level.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, phone's ringing and I'm having shooting pains down my arm. I'm afraid I'm going to have a heart attack.
Wow.
And it was then that I realized
mm-hmm.
that I had a problem. It wasn't my mother's problem.
Wow.
It was my problem. And then that's when I started, I kind of gave myself permission
mm-hmm.
to start focusing on my health a little more than
mm-hmm.
hers. I mean, I had spent over 10 years just making sure she had the best care all the time
mm-hmm.
and was always as well taken care of as possible. But there was a tremendous stress on that. And I think as a guy, I've talked to a lot of people and therapists and different people that have been in a similar situation. Guys tend to sometimes suppress their emotions.
Yes, definitely.
Like whenever my mother would get mad at the TV and the remote, I'd buy her a new TV, you know, and whenever it was her phone and she was having problems with the phone, I'd go and get her a new phone and give her all new instructions on how to phone. It took me years to realize that it wasn't the TV, it wasn't the phone that were the problems. It was her frustration with her own mental decline as the dementia, because my mother was a very like top achieving woman, businesswoman. And, you know, that had a strong effect on her when she stopped being able to do simpler things. And changed her personality. The disease changed her personality for not for the better. She became a very toxic person to be around for everybody. And it was that moment that I realized I had a problem. My problem wasn't my mother. My problem was me. I was the one with the problem. So that just kind of really changed.
And when you say that you had a problem, what did you find was your problem? What was?
Well, physically, I was suppressing all that stress. But also beyond that, on a spiritual level, I wasn't really facing. I thought I was, but again, in that kind of fix-it guy way. A friend of mine called it that, and I think she was right. Yeah, I like how she put it. It kind of fits, you know. And so I wasn't really addressing the real problem, you know. I wasn't crying about it. I wasn't. I mean, I threw my phone against the wall one time and smashed it to a million bits when I got off the phone with her one time. But that was just out of frustration, having a conversation with somebody who. She had frontal temporal dementia along with the Alzheimer's and the Lewy bodies. So she had increasingly problems with just delusions and time loops and stuff, and so it was virtually impossible to talk with her, have a coherent conversation.
So you feel like you weren't taking care of yourself spiritually,
right?
And a part of that you weren't expressing how you know what you were going
what
through.
I needed, what I needed, and my wife, who was very close with my mother and was very supportive, and we would go places. And my mother would have her good days and her bad days, so it was this roller coaster, and that's what created the stress because the roller coaster over a long period of time, kind of like what we were talking about on Thursday. That normal became that stress became normal. And so the roller coaster is going like this for 10, 12, 13, 14 years, and that's baseline normal.
That's baseline normal.
You know?
Crisis mode all the time.
Yeah, crisis mode all the time. Well, that was having a severe effect on my body. I was drinking too much. I was 25 pounds overweight. I was in denial. And so I kind of, you know, once she was no longer living on her own and she was in a 24/7 care facility that I could trust. Actually, ironically, that phone call came from a care facility that she was getting evicted from because they were, not all care facilities are great. And that's one of the things I talk about in my book. As a caregiver, you need to be aware. I call it 5 rules for being a caregiver, and one of those rules is that not everyone that works in the care business is a saint.
Wow, yeah.
So that was a big realization. So there's just a whole bunch of stuff going on, and until I got grounded, until I got centered, and became a lot more self-aware, and fortunately, this coincided almost exactly with getting involved in the New Thought movement.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you about that. It's hard for me to see you as a person that not taking care of yourself. I mean, we've talked several times, and one of the times we talked was at our Spiritual Connection group that meets every Thursday at Whole Foods. And I've always considered you to be a practitioner of the principles of New Thought, pretty much.
I am. I think I do on a daily basis now, but you know.
You weren't always that person.
No, I wasn't always that person.
And so this is a time when
2015, 2016, you know, it wasn't.
So how did you, is this situation, did that usher you into New Thought?
Yeah.
Was that?
Well,
Or did you
I think I realized that I needed something, and both my wife and I were looking for more. We were big fans of The Secret. We were big fan. You know, I heard Michael Beckwith speak in the 90s before he even founded Agape in LA at his first church. And with my then girlfriend back then, we went out of curiosity one weekend. And I've always liked that. I've been a huge fan of Henry David Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson and all the existentialists and philosophers all my life. I have a bookshelf of books. Joseph Campbell was a real big influence on me in my 20s, The Hero's Journey and all that. And so I've always kind of been on the edge of this. And it's funny looking back on it. I was like, man, when I had a brief career in Hollywood, I said, I wish I knew New Thought then, because I could have made, some. I didn't get everything done in Hollywood as I kind of dreamed I wanted to, And I think part of that was, again, I got my own way, and doubt and going, oh, well, why, am I good enough? And going through all that stuff. And sometimes you just have to be that brazen. I was writing and producing and directing, and but you have to be strong enough as an individual sometimes in order to have the ability to express yourself. And if there isn't that maturity first, expressing yourself can be kind of a minefield. I feel that's my opinion. So, like with this book, that's why I waited. Well, actually, writer friends, my other author friends of mine in Las Vegas, they knew what I was going through, and they're the ones that encouraged me to write the book. As therapy for myself, which is important, and but more to help other people, because I was already then, even before I wrote the book, I was constantly getting into conversations with people and just giving them the opportunity to have a voice for their concerns, because so many caregivers. Not to stay on this subject. I know you probably don't want to stay on this subject.
No. I mean, no, it's good.
We feel it's all about the patient. We always feel, oh, it's the patient with the disease. It's the patient that needs the help and the attention and everything. And who am I? How selfish am I being by thinking about myself and my own health? And so there's this tremendous guilt that sometimes gets associated with that. Well, that's very negative, and it's very debilitating over a long period of time. And it's just not healthy, and then so you start looking for other escapes, like I did, and
Unhealthy escapes,
exactly. Yeah. And so it really became about self-care tips for caregivers, and not a lot of people have read it and reached out to me and said that they've found it helpful in cases of being a primary caregiver for someone suffering from cancer or other types of disease, not just dementia and Alzheimer's, just because that caregiving role can be so demanding. And yet it's the patient that needs there's a balance that needs to happen, but it's not always obvious.
What are some of the tips that you give the caregivers?
Well, one is that you're not alone. That's a biggie. Another is that you've got to find someone to talk about it, even if, just
express yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
be honest, right?
Be
brutally honest.
Be brutally honest.
I'm liking this shit.
No, and I talk about that in the book.
It's hard enough. It's hard enough taking care of somebody that's sick, but then it's, to see someone decline and not be in their mind that you're used to them being in.
Right.
It can be even harder.
And a progressive disease like that's one of the other rules, and it's a sad one, but it's an important one to know as a caregiver. It's going to get worse before it gets better, and that sounds like a negative, anti kind of thing to say, especially in the New Thought kind of world. Like, well, let's try to be positive and find the what if up possibility of it. Knowing that the disease
is debilitating,
it gives you the opportunity to plan. And see, that's why I was always getting blindsided by the worse and worse my mother was getting. It was always a big shock because I didn't plan for it. So that's one of the things I talk about in a caregiver's journey is that planning and admitting that now hopefully there's going to be some wonderful turnarounds. I'm constantly reading. I follow the updates on the so far nothing has been really successful, but a lot of it goes to I have an author friend of mine in Las Vegas who is in stage 3 dementia right now, and she is keeping a good attitude and being positive and getting out, and she knows she has a disease, she admits it, she tells people, but she's functioning. You know, she's functioning, and then she doesn't have like there's like 9 different types of dementia. Alzheimer's is just one of those 9. She doesn't have the toxic kind that my mother has, so that makes it a little bit easier. To
And you know, it's important when you were saying about the caregiver, the tips that you give them. You said one of them is being honest about the fact that the situation is going to get worse. And so, what kind
before it gets better.
Before it gets better. And when you say what do you mean when you say before it gets better?
Like for instance with me, I mean, in that period when I got that phone call after Sedona, she had been living on her own in an adult community and balancing her checkbook still up until she was 91 years old. Well, actually, yeah, I took it over. She's about 92 probably, because she died when she was 97. And she was living on her own, this 55 plus community, and you know, going around. She's gone to the casino. She was real careful with her money. She was winning money, and she had the bus route memorized and stuff. She was doing some good things, but she would have these toxic outbursts periodically, and they became once every 6 months, and then once every 3 months, and once a month, and twice a month, and once a week, then 3 times. It was getting worse. But when I finally got her out of that and got her into an assisted living, now it wasn't a fully assisted living, but that step right there was getting better, because then I didn't have the stress of getting the phone call. Oh, Barrick, I've fallen down. Okay. I can't, you know, or I burned myself in the kitchen or something. Now her meals were being prepared for her. Someone else was doing the laundry. There was an activity director. It was a nice place. So I thought.
So you got some relief.
Yeah, so that was a relief. So that was before it got worse. Before that's it getting better. Then it went downhill from there a little bit, but then I got her into a full-time lockdown, you know, where the locks are on the outside, not on the inside.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
You know, nursing assistants, and through a couple of those, that gave me a peace of mind then too. So that was getting better. And then I'll just be honest. I mean, she was pleading. She would have these conversations. She would plead. She's like, "Why do you hate me? Why do you keep me? Why are you letting me stay alive? Why do you hate me so much that you're letting me live? You know how much I want to die, and you won't let me die." And it's really intense conversations to be having on a Wednesday afternoon, you know, with your mother or any loved one. So that's the kind of harsh stuff, reality. But when you deal with that, I mean, I think it's obvious. Dealing with it is the positive thing to do. When she did finally pass, she was in a happier place, and it was a tremendous weight off my life and my wife's life.
Of course.
And it took us a couple years to get back. I had stopped calling her mom probably in 2010. And she had been my mom my whole life.
Wow.
But
So what
she
did you,
became a different person. I called her mother.
Mother? Okay.
And occasionally some other words.
I understand.
And,
And that's real.
That's real.
Yeah.
Because she was saying horrible things to me.
Of
I mean,
course.
even worse than what I just said.
Yeah.
And they weren't true.
Right.
I mean, you've met my wife. I think you met me. I mean, we're not, torturing my mother.
Right. Yeah.
But that's how it was. Because she didn't want to live anymore, and she felt like she was being kept alive. But
so did New Thought help you to heal?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, thank you. That's what I was going to say. After her passing, it took me about 18 months to 2 years. I'm now at the spot, because she died in April 2020, the end of April 2020, where I can call her mom again. And moving has helped. Moving, because I had to go through a bunch of stuff, and a bunch more of her stuff and everything, and I really kind of consolidated things down, and it made me, but I'm back to being able, because now I remember her how she used to be, which is who she was. I couldn't do it in the moment.
Not while she was.
She started exhibiting in 2004. And actually Christmas of 2003 was the first incident that we, can attribute to. And that's a long time. That's almost 17 years, 16 and a half years. And
Of that.
So, and when someone changes, when their personality, it's hard for you to remember how they were. Like, a 90-year-old woman, I mean, she was a different person when she was 85.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And that's a part of your healing process was going through that
Yes.
stuff and
Exactly.
and looking at that, and I
Exactly,
guess talking
yeah.
about it and
yeah.
remember, yeah. And so, how did New Thought help you to heal? Like, what was it about New Thought, or?
I mean, I think a lot of it is just the messaging. I mean, about the one of the things that I like about New Thought that both my wife and I are attracted to, but I mean, I'll say it personally just for myself, is that it looks at a lot of different philosophies and ways of looking at things. I mean, the New Thought grew out of Thoreau and Emerson's existentialist writings, and it incorporates aspects of the Bible, and the Bible is an important element in the history and the development of New Thought. But when you look at the practitioners across the field that are really doing some amazing work in it, they're talking about Lao Tzu and Yogananda and, you know, different religions, and it makes it a little bit more relatable. You know what I mean? And so I think but hearing those messages in different ways, it's just not the same. I grew up in the Lutheran church, and it was very, read from, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes it's hard to relate it to our lives now. And I like what New Thought does is because it gives me some actionable items instead of going to Sunday once a week and having a spiritual afternoon. New Thought for me teaches me to be spiritual every day, every day. And so I think about, and the other mantra, one thing that really took hold for me was the idea that thoughts lead to words, and words lead to actions, and actions lead to destiny.
Yeah.
And when you start taking responsibility for your thoughts and stop saying things that you don't want to happen, it's so easy to be negative. One of the things I say on some of my talks is that you're never going to be alone if you're negative, because you're going to find lots of other people, friends, to gripe about things with.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
I've found
yeah.
it's much harder to find people that don't want to do that, because it's so easy. You watch the news, we're being fed negativity all the time. And when was the last time we saw a news item about a baby being saved from the earthquake?
Right.
You know, why does it always have to be the other way around? You know, because there are those stories out there if you look for them.
Right.
And arguably, in a balanced universe, there might be it might be a 50-50 thing. We're just not hearing that other side, you know? And I think New Thought, for me, one of the things I like is it focuses the messaging is about creating a better world from yourself. Mae McCarthy was a huge, her book, A Path to Wealth, changed our lives financially and spiritually. And along with her book, The Gratitude Formula, also very important, just giving thanks every day, you know, going to bed at night and thinking, okay, what are 3 things I'm grateful for today? Just 3 things, you know, they can be small, they can be big, but just doing that, creating that habit actions lead to habits, and habits lead to destiny. That changes your life.
Yeah, I mean, you are definitely a practical guy, a guy that takes responsibility for, you know, the situations that you find yourself in. I've watched you, I've listened to you talk, and you know, I noticed that you have this juice drink that you're drinking right now, and you said that it's doing wonders for you, and there's just other things that I've heard you talk about as far as like doing like affirmations and stuff like that, you know. So you definitely practice this stuff. And
I do. It helped. I mean, I'll share something that I haven't shared with a whole lot of people, but I had right before we moved to Chattanooga in July from Las Vegas. The beginning July 4th weekend, we left Las Vegas and we got here the weekend after. And it was shortly after that I followed up on some medical blood tests that I had. And I had a bit of a cancer scare right away. The doctors wanted to use the C word with me. Wow. And this is like in July, August when I first started going to Erlanger. And I was just like, no, I don't. I don't have it. I went through 3 tests.
Really?
And they couldn't find it.
Okay.
And then it finally...
So wait. So they tested you for the first time?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I did a CT scan and then a PET scan and then something else, and then I canceled the biopsy because then they were just, and I'm just like, you're looking for something that you're not finding on the imaging and stuff, and I'm saying I don't have it, and the positivity.
Wait, and you were telling doctors that, or you were just?
Yeah, well, I wasn't witnessing in the hospital.
Okay, right. But it sounds like you were very clear.
I was clear,
with yourself.
Yeah,
and listen,
and that I was hesitant about some of these things, and I said, well, what about? I threw out the first doctor that wanted to go real negative, and I said, well, what if I stop? I've stopped drinking. I've noticed that that's helping. Nah, it doesn't make any difference. And I'm like, what about CBD and medical marijuana products? I have a friend who for decades in her life had polyps, and when she started when she got her medical marijuana license and started doing, after that she had her scans, not a single polyp, and she had lived her life with polyps, and she no longer had polyps. So I asked about that. I said, is that a possibility? No, that doesn't make any difference.
Wow.
And so he was just so dismissive of these things, and I was like, well, now I know that they work because I've taught, I know people that have turned cancer around and things with.
And you're a New Thought person.
And as a New Thought person, so I knew my thoughts made a big difference.
Right.
And so I just didn't accept it. And so I researched, I found out about pomegranate juice and broccoli and everything, so I came up with this thing I call chewy juice.
I've seen you drinking these big old chunks of stuff.
No, I only do it at home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen you with the a cup, so I assume you had it. And,
No, this is actually a blueberry tea. That's very nice. Cool. But being mindful about what I'm putting in my body. I really have. I was a label reader before, but I was still eating. I'm like, now if I see monosodium glutamate or any GMO stuff, no, I'm serious.
Yeah, it's true.
Because biologically,
I mean, our bodies are just not made for all of that stuff.
They're not.
All of this.
Our bodies don't know how to digest those cells. They don't know how to break down those cells. So they take those cells on a molecular level and they store it in our fat. Cells,
right?
Because it can't process it through our kidneys or our bladder or our intestines.
Right, yeah.
So it's just stores in our. So for years and years, and we build up.
It's like, what is this? That's what it's called. That's probably what cancer is.
Yeah.
It's this fatty cell that whatever.
Yeah, I mean it could be, and so I've cut that out, but. Honestly, drinking was a big thing. I think for me, I call myself a functional alcoholic, but alcoholics argue with me. I was drinking about a bottle and a half of wine a day, and then because I was in these wine clubs, and sometimes we'd get together and do these tastings or go on winery tours and stuff, and we'd just drink ridiculous wine. Yeah, and so in order to do that, I had to maintain sort of my weekly, because otherwise you're always suffering the hangover.
Right.
So my tolerance had been built up for a long time. Well, that wasn't having a good effect on my body either. So again, just that. All right, let's take responsibility for this vessel. I'm the only thing I'm the CEO of is my own life.
Yes.
That and the only thing I can control are the decisions I make about the things that affect me. That's that's the CEO. I can't tell anyone else what to do, even when I have the authority or boss level. Can't really make someone else think differently.
It's hard enough to make ourselves think.
It's hard enough, to separate the chatter in our mind to that awareness in our mind, and that's where I'm at right now. I'm exploring that level because that's where the magic is. Because when we can look at the chatter, when we become aware of the chatter, we are aware. That's that yogi scent that we're almost touching the white light then.
Yeah.
Because when we become aware of our own awareness, I mean, do you know what I mean?
I know some. There's times when I'm focused on a task like doing the dishes or whatever, and I can hear it myself with the negative chat. I'm like, will you shut the fuck up?
Yeah.
Stop it, man.
That telling it to stop it is awareness.
Yeah.
And that's what gets skipped over because sometimes we let the chatter run our lives, and it's good to just step back sometimes, and
listen
and stop it, turn it off, click.
So you started taking responsibility for what you were putting in your body. You started to look at the ingredients that within, I guess, foods and stuff like that. Yeah. And so, how did you come up with this drink? Like, did you
there was pomegranate juice. Any dark cherry juice is really good for. They were trying to say I had prostate cancer. I'm an older guy. I've got some I'm an older guy, and so instead of some of the more common, they wanted based on a marker, on a blood test, that is debatable. So there's dissension in about the relevancy of your PSA count. And again, it's about your body. When we can control the cells in our body, when we get to that level of awareness, we can then tell our mind, okay, mind, send T cells to this sore part of my body and attack it on a biological level. We are in charge of our bodies. We are an electromagnetic field, and we have the ability to change our frequency. And I'm very into Eileen McCusick's human biofield teachings, and I actually brought my tuning forks because it makes such a difference. The vibrational tones that we let into our body, and
then send it down to those cells.
Yes, it can make all the difference in the world. All the difference in the world. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I found that to be very. I've used it on myself, and I'm starting to think about offering that as a practitioner to out into the larger world, just because it's worked so well for me, and it's something I'm interested in, and
So you've taken responsibility, and you decided to do your juicing, and you're doing the tuning. What is that called? Tuning? It's kind of it's like a meditation.
It's tuning the human biofield. Is the name of one of her books. Is a good one, but that's it. It's just that awareness of, okay, we are an electrical field. What are we putting our electrical field in? And it's just, and this might sound really,
it doesn't sound
high to some people maybe, but think about it. Every time we walk into a room, when we walk into a situation, when I came here for the first time, this is the first time I've been in your house, I brought a certain energy here with me, just by virtue of the drive and the rain today. And you have a certain energy in your own home. And we all do. We all have. So that, that happens on every time we walk into an office, every time we walk in, we meet other people, every time we're in the grocery store, we're exchanging energy. And when our energy is more cleanly attuned, we become less susceptible to someone else's negative energy. And everyone knows what I'm talking about, I think. And sometimes we can get sucked into that because, again, misery loves company. And that, that old saying exists for a reason. But it's like, okay, do I want friends that bad that I'm going to surround myself with this much negativity? I kind of chose no. Not that I was surrounded by a bunch of negative people, but it's like but I chose not to be aware. It's like, okay, I'm not going to... And it's like the doctor, going to these doctors and listening to what they were saying. I was like, this is a really negative situation. You're trying to tell me something that then I'm agreeing to do these tests, and you're not finding. You're looking for something I don't want you to find. Why do I keep coming back?
Wow.
And that, light bulbs, And it's... it's working. It's working. Well, I feel great. I have more energy than I've had in years. People that have known me for years in the past 6 months are saying, "God, you look so I'm 61 years old, and I'm getting my health back. I'm getting my stamina back. I'm getting out and exercising a little bit more. I'm making those conscious choices." But it begins with awareness.
And do you have any other spiritual practices other than? Are you like meditation, or are you doing journaling or anything? To
I do both. My journaling is a little sporadic. It's funny moving across. I have a stack in my office, like 2 3-foot stacks of journals that I've moved around the whole country several times with me. I've saved them. So I've been writing for years, but lately I don't anymore. I've been, usually when I do want to write, I put it into some sort of story or article or focus it somehow. But so I don't journal, but I do meditate. Yes, I do meditate, and that's a really because then that you can do your own guided meditation on that too with the cells, and if you're trying to heal your body or something, or there's a sore spot. I need to back up a minute. Where I really discovered this was in 2019, right before we had planned to go. Or no, yeah, it was 2020, September of 2020. We had a year-long planned trip to go to Yellowstone, to drive to Yellowstone with our dog. And we had booked it the previous September 2019. And then COVID hit in March of 2020. And by September 2020, especially in Las Vegas, things were still pretty sketchy. I mean, the casinos were just kind of beginning to sort of reopen, and it was very... But we kept the booking because it was in a cabin in a KOA campground, but it was a cabin,
secluded place.
a secluded way, and we'd never been to Yellowstone, so
I've never
we
been.
rented a car, and with our dog drove to Yellowstone 16 hours from a 2-day trip and right before that, I fell down the stairs. Laura yelled out something downstairs, and I was upstairs in my office, and I got up out of my chair and I went out in the hallway and I started down the stairs, and my leg collapsed under me because my leg had fallen asleep and the blood hadn't, and so I fell down the stairs. It was like slow motion. It was so weird. And
It's
again,
not funny, but
no, it wasn't funny. And
slow
again,
motion.
I'm overweight, and I'm out of shape because this is 2019. And I didn't break my leg, fortunately, but I sprained the heck out of my knee, really bad. And so it talking to me, you can probably, tore your ACL, you're going to have to go. And I'm looking at that and the surgery and the recovery. We're leaving in like 10 days for this trip.
Yeah.
And I knew we were going to have this long drive in the car. We rented a big SUV, but I just gotten into tuning forks. I'd heard about them. I'd gone through this seminar. I started using it on myself, and I went from people telling me I had a 6 to 9 month recuperation time with the surgery and everything to being able to walk in Yellowstone. Wow. Because the sound vibration of 528 megahertz, when you do a sound bath over that joint, you can feel those sound waves going through your body, and it realigns the harmonics. Because all it was just my nerve of the knee had fallen out of the groove, and all of our joints, our knuckles, our elbows, our knees, our major nerves and blood vessels run through these like canyons. The bone has, it's made the move, but then there's these canyons through it, so the veins and nervous system can still operate. All that happens with something like that is those nerves or tendons get thrown out of that groove, and so the bone is grinding on it, and that's what causes the pain and the inflammation. Getting it to reduce in swelling, so it goes back into the thing, is what sound vibration does. Wow. And it works so miraculously. But then when they started throwing around the C word with me in June, I was like,
You started scanning yourself again.
And so...
Yeah. Started scanning yourself again.
Well, not scanning.
I'd
hit the tone and do the sound bath.
Yeah, that's what I mean by
the
it.
sound bath.
But they talk. Unity has like 5 principles, and those last 3 principles, they say through prayer and meditation, we align our heart and mind with God. Denials and affirmations are tools we use. That's the third one. The fourth one is through thought, words, and actions, we live the truth we know. And the last one is, those are the last 2. And when I think about those 2, I think about you because you actually take action. There's not a lot of people that actually, that take action and take responsibility for this, for things that's happening in their lives and decide they want to do something about it. They don't just, a lot of people just sit back and say, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. But fortunately, you're one of those guys that take action, and I really appreciate that. You're definitely a demonstrator of the principles of.
Well, I think so because, and the story and I hope so. The story needs to get out because it's just so easy to listen to the. I mean, I just compare. I watch TV now, and 50% of the advertising on our TVs is from drug companies. Yeah. Why is that? Yeah. That is crazy. And when you listen to those ads, whatever they're curing, I lose track by the end of what it is they're curing because the list of the side effects are just traumatic.
Yeah, it's like,
I mean,
my God.
brain bleeds.
I got to go through all that to get this cure.
to cure.
I'd rather get
an
a tuning
itch.
fork. You know what I mean?
Cure an itch. I'm going to go into, thoughts of suicide. Am I giving up? Maybe I'll stick with the itch, or find something else than the itch. And so anyway, I've just gotten real cynical. I know I'm not alone in this. I don't want to call it cynicism, but just I would maybe call it disappointment in our medical system. I think there was a time, certainly in the world and in the United States, I can remember as a little boy.
Well, medicine
The
was probably
doctors
medicine.
were more honorable. I mean, my mother had a triple bypass at like 80 some years old, and she lived for she was younger than that, 70, and she lived for another 27 years after a triple bypass. So medicine is wonderful. I think trauma medicine is wonderful, but the long-term care stuff where they're trying to get you into, some people I've talked to, it's like their doctors were surprised when the procedure worked, because they didn't expect it to. And so when I started finding stories like that, I just became a real advocate of just this kind of own it kind of. Let's
see what we can do to fix this. Let's see what I can do to fix this.
Yeah.
And that's so important.
Yeah,
really
but you need to be around other people, and that's what I love about Unity and the entire New Thought movement.
Like-minded people, being around a tribe of people that are taking responsibility.
Or at least focus on the positive messaging. The possibilities in an infinite world. It's a world of infinite possibilities, right? If we just look at the science and say, okay, the galaxy is this infinite world, then that means there's infinite possibilities. And we start owning that, going, okay, so now that's why I was saying I wish I had had New Thought when I was in Hollywood, because then, I would have been the director I wanted to be, because I would have envisioned myself the way to do it.
Yeah.
Or so I think. I might be entirely wrong. Maybe I'm probably just a huge hack. I didn't deserve to. My short films were.
You lived in Hollywood. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, for a little while.
Were you an actor?
20 years.
You said 20 years?
Yeah, I moved there in 1990 and 16. And then we left in 2006.
Wow.
And I left the business probably in 2003. So it's sort of 13 years.
So you have some short films that you've done?
Yeah, I did
so
some
you're
short
actor
films
in short
and stuff.
film?
Yeah. No, I was directing
Oh,
mostly.
directing. Okay.
I wrote. I wrote and directed. And then I was on the business side of the film business. That's where I was making my money, was being on the business side of it.
Because I read something about the metaphysics of nudity and
Right,
For Rent Dangerous Paradise.
Right. Well, those are two other books. So the Metaphysics of Nudity was the first book I wrote, and it was published in 1996. And For Rent Dangerous Paradise I wrote after we moved to Las Vegas, and it's about living in Venice. I lived in Venice Beach for
You've been around,
10
man.
years. Well, of the 13 years, of the 15 years I was in, I guess almost 16 years in LA, over 10 of those were in Venice Beach. I lived in this one-bedroom apartment in Venice Beach, 3 blocks off the ocean for over 10 years. And
I visited Venice Beach once,
And so I wrote a book after we moved, because it was an amazing place. It was a crazy place. And I wrote a whole book. It's a paranormal murder mystery. And it's set in that building where I live. I fictionalized and everything, but it was really fun. So yeah.
So what's next for Eric Miller? I hear you talking about like being this practitioner of the tuning.
I seem to be getting a little bit of a calling to
You have a lot of knowledge.
Spread some. I intended to do that with the Caregiver's Journey, and I started down that path after the book came out.
Because you had a whole blog set up.
Yeah, I did, and it just got so depressing, and I wasn't ready for it. Of dealing with other people's stories. I really wanted to help and I wanted to be there, but
They needed
just-
support, and you were
and-
just like,
well, and I still wasn't getting my, I just, and then other things came up and I didn't do the blog and I didn't feed it the way I needed to. But the book's been selling and it's doing pretty well. I hired a marketing company to help release it, so I got some good press
yeah, I
and
actually
stuff in the
purchased a copy
beginning.
of it. I'm waiting for it to come in.
And, I just would have given you one.
Oh, well, you know what? I can take one and
Yeah.
cancel.
Okay. Yeah, I'll sign it. And I think it was meant to be. I mean, I have guilt about that because I feel like I let down some. But it was just. But I think now I needed this time in order to reframe it. Like I can do that, but now I can do it from like a higher set of awareness because I
Right.
can talk about some other things. I can talk about the tuning forks and I can talk about self-healing beyond
You're
just
at a higher
the tips
vibration
that I
now,
give.
and you have more tools.
I have more tools,
spiritual
so it
tools to
goes
use,
beyond
yeah.
just caregiving for someone else. It dives deeper into caregiving for ourselves, and so I think I'm being pulled in that path. But I've still got some fires in the iron with Hollywood that are burning, and some exciting projects that I hope come to fruition. So I'm distracted. So I'm letting, but I do feel calling towards. I like the tuning forks. If I could set up I was going to offer to your listeners, if anybody is interested, I will offer a free sound bath to them if they want. Like
Wow.
it's a-
Well, let me
like
put
a
that. Let me put
15-minute
yeah.
kind of.
I'll put up email. I'll put up our email address, and if anybody's interested in a sound bath,
Yeah,
they can contact.
Yeah, it's just a tuning fork. It's with a tuning fork, and it's not nude or
Right,
anything.
right,
It's just
right.
you keep your clothes on. But if there is a sore, if there's something a sore part on your body or an area that I mean, the direct skin contact is good if that's possible, but if not, it still works. I mean, you feel the sound waves going through, and there's 3 different ones that I use, and anyway, if anyone's interested, you know, because
Well, if they're interested, they can contact. They can send an email to contact@unityofchattanooga.org, and we will definitely get that information to you. And I guess you guys will set up a time and place to get that bath done.
yeah,
You know.
it's a simple 15-minute. You know,
Yeah.
you can do it in a chair. You can do it.
Cool.
Not standing up, but
Yeah. Well, Eric, I want to thank you for coming out and joining us.
it's been a pleasure, Shannon.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you on what's that? Tomorrow, actually, at our.
Oh yes, on Thursday.
If you decide to
yeah,
come.
we're
That's
planning
something
on
that-
coming.
yeah.
Yeah. Kelly's going to come back too. I called him the other day and to see what he's been up to. So I hope he's going to come. He was on your show.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He was. And I thought about him a few days ago and decided to give him a call. It's ironic.
Oh,
that
you gave him a call too?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
funny.
You know, I mean,
oh,
when
that's
we
so
don't
weird.
see, I
No,
think it's
yeah, I haven't
important
seen
when
him in
you-
a while.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
So it's important that we look out for each other,
Yeah,
check
yeah,
on
yeah.
each other, see what's going
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
called him and checked on him, and
Oh, good.
happy to hear from him. And it's good that you called.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
I'm sure it lets him know that people care.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So we go missing, someone's going to call you and find out where you're at and see if you're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I invited him. I let him know about tomorrow's meeting, and we had some restaurants on our list that we were going to go visit. So we're probably going to go to a restaurant after tomorrow's.
Yeah, so I'll put that up now. That's the Spiritual Connection Group. We meet every Thursday at 6:00 on the mezzanine level at Whole Foods, and that's at 301 Manufacturers Road. And if you're a viewer of this podcast and you're in Chattanooga, Tennessee, you're welcome to stop by and join us.
It's a good thing, and it's a non-denominational discussion
Yeah.
group. We talk about God. I mean, we talk about all kinds of
everything,
things,
yeah.
you know. And so it's not like there's a message
Yeah.
or anything like that. It's
Wherever it
just-
goes, it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, of course, we have our service on Sunday at the
Right.
Red Bank Community Center.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to miss that one, unfortunately.
Yeah. And we have 10:30. We have Laura Noyes. She does the meditation movement.
Yeah, the dancing.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. I
Yeah.
would highly recommend.
Have you've done
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
And then after that, Doug speaks at 11:00. So if you're in Chattanooga, you're welcome to join us then.
And then you'll have the after after dinner, after the service sort of
Yeah.
potluck get together. Yeah.
You like that, huh?
Yeah.
I think me and you enjoy potluck the most out of everybody.
Well,
You
you're
and I.
always you got to break down all the equipment and everything. And you
But I
gotta-
make sure I get that. I make sure I get something. I'll stop and get my little meal. I mean, I just love the food. I think it's great.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
And then we just
Bring
fellowship
something-
together, and
Right.
it's really nice.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so you guys are welcome to come to that. And again, Eric, I want to thank you for coming out and joining me.
My pleasure.
I want to have you back again, maybe sometime in the future.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
Sure.
before we end, do you have anything else for our viewers that you want to say? I'm going to put your book back up while you.
I think no. I one mantra I will share that has really been beneficial to me. I got from Reverend Justin Epstein in Unity in New York City, Unity Center, New York City.
And is that in? Where's that on? Is that 70th Street?
Yeah. And he's awesome. He's awesome. We went to a retreat in the Berkshires with him in September. But I am young. I am strong. I am healthy. My body knows it, and my body shows it.
I like that.
And saying that out loud. I mean, say it. I am
I'm
young.
young.
I am strong. I am healthy. My body knows it, and my body shows it.
Right. I'm going to write that
just
down.
saying that.
Yeah.
Doesn't it create a resonance in
it
your body?
definitely
It
does.
changes. So that's what I'm talking about. So I invite everyone out there as a going away experiment, to just do that right now, wherever you are, and don't worry, you'll still be cool.
Yeah. We do some weird things. New Thought people do some weird things, but it all works and it improves our lives. So
I like how Laura dances. Laura Noyes dances. She dances. She's like made of rubber
she's
or
like, just
something.
move your body. You don't really have to. It doesn't make a difference. You just move it.
I'm like,
however
how do
it
you
goes.
do
But it all works.
It all works. It all works.
Eric, thank you again for coming out. I want to thank our viewers for watching, and we'll be back next week at 4 o'clock. Bye.